again, growing up poor and without means, we had to find ways to feed ourselves. So we were taught early on about recycling and gathering cans. And Homeland, I think they're still around here somewhere, they would actually take cans in. And so every like Saturday morning, 4 youngest ones would get up, get a bag, and we would dumpster dive and go through people's trash and get cans and take those cans to recycling. And the money that we got from recycling, we would go to Homeland while we were there and get like snacks, whatever we could afford, whether it be a lunch meat and bread, because that would be dinner. You know, that was our very creative way of being in a situation, but being resilient through it before we even knew what resilience was at that age.
Hey friends, welcome back to My Dad's Story. I'm really looking forward to today's guest with Val here, and it's going to be a great time. Today's guest is a living proof that strength doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers. Val is the youngest of 7 girls, raised with humble beginnings, hard lessons, and a sister bond that would one day become her lifeline. She became a single mother, building a life for her son with grit, love, and determination, and then she faced one of the toughest battles anyone can face, brain cancer. After 2 decades of struggle, loss, and rebuilding, Val found the power to start again and recently teamed up with her sisters to release a memoir 10 years in the making called Trisha's Daughters, a Memoir of Survival, Sisterhood, and Healing. Her story is about endurance, reinvention, and the quiet power of never giving up. This is Val's story. Val, welcome to the show. I am so looking forward. I read the book. I am so looking forward to talking about everything about it, and well, I'm just excited, so I'll try to calm down here and stop doing my little fanboy still there. But I want to start at the very beginning, And you were the youngest of 7 girls. And what was life growing up in a house with that many sisters?
Whew, youngest of 7 girls, and we're about a year apart. Okay. So we're all stair-step. Best friends and worst enemies, all under one roof.
Understood.
So yeah, born Port Arthur, Texas. Mom and dad. Dad is from that area. Still have my dad's side of the family in Port Arthur, Texas. My mom is from Clinton, Oklahoma. Small little town, western Oklahoma.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so they met. My dad was in the military. He was in the Air Force. And so they met. They said, the more fighting, the more kids. And so 7 girls.
There was a lot of fighting.
It was a lot of fighting going on.
There was. And then your sisters, though, you, like you say, the group, but there was like almost a dependency on each other after a while.
Absolutely. So being the youngest, my oldest sister in our household, especially with my mom going out and working, my older 2 sisters really adopted that mother in lieu of. Mm-hmm. My mom would go to work. They would keep over all of my younger sisters. So my oldest sister, because I'm going to say sister just many a time. So my oldest sister her name is Yvette. And then right below her is Shator. We call her Shashai.
Okay.
And then it's Cantina. We call her Tina. Then it's Jackie. She has a really long first name. It's actually pronounced Jacqueline. But she goes by Jackie.
Okay.
And then Patrice goes by Tree.
Understood.
And then Lakeisha goes by Keisha. And my first name is actually Val Shayla, and I go by Val.
Val Shayla. Got
Yes.
it. Okay. Got it.
So growing up, my older 2 sisters really spearheaded the whole taking care of us, making sure that we ate, making sure homework was done, combing hair, especially when you have a lot of girls and our hair was always long. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lord. Fixing food and all that. And so just as we got older, they really became my shields. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't know how shielded I was until after we wrote this book and I got to read their stories, because growing up, they were always going to be my big sisters. Right. And as we got older, they were always going to kind of be my best friends at times. Mm-hmm. in different areas and different cliques within the sisters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, especially when you have that many sisters.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a lot.
Absolutely. And so after reading their chapters and the things that we went through and the things that I had no clue of really gave me a sense of how shielded I was as the younger sister.
Right.
And it was just amazing. It was just amazing.
Right. And we'll get into a lot of that later on. Because, like I
Absolutely.
said, I have read that book, and wow is the first word. I mean, I love autobiographies and biographies and that kind of stuff, but all I can say about the book is wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that a lot later. But in those humble beginnings at the beginning, how did that shape the outlook you have in life now?
Oh, it's every walk that I have is shaped by growing up. We grew up very poor. So we grew up with my parents. They divorced when I was 1. They separated. It was a really abusive situation. My father was very abusive towards my mother, causing, again, didn't know into the book, actually caused a couple of miscarriages from the abuse with my mom. So my mom ended up moving back to Clinton where her parents were, and we moved in with my grandparents. And so the 8 of us moved in with my grandmother, my grandfather, and I have an aunt that is mentally handicapped that also stayed with my grandparents. That house couldn't have been more than 800 square feet. It was very small, and we all lived there. Very limited means, by all means, financial, space. The one thing that we had plenty of is God. We stayed in church. And no regrets, because that created the woman I am right now, my belief in my walk with Christ. But poor is an understatement. And humble beginnings is an understatement as well. Thankful that we had a place to lay our head, but never really stable. We moved around. I can't tell you how many addresses I had as a child. We moved around a lot, mainly because either my mother was running from my father if he located her, or by financial means. We would pack up and leave everything that we had and go somewhere new. So a lot of childhood memories don't exist for me. I mean, I have them, but like not momentums, or any trinkets that I can say, I've had this since, second grade.
Right.
So it's shaped me a lot, especially when it comes to parenting.
Right.
So.
And when you say, okay, speaking of that a little bit, but what your son thinks is poor is different than what was really poor, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. He has been blessed to be raised in Wiley, Texas. And poor in my son's eye is not being able to eat out. Like McDonald's. Poor is...
Oh, yeah, that's suffering.
Oh, my goodness. I'm out of 2% lactate milk opposed to just regular milk. You raise children out of the way you were parented.
Right.
And because I grew up with so much lack, I made it a point to get to the highest that I needed to in order to provide to him for stability. Stability is huge for me. I wanted him to say, hey, I had this one address, or I went to this school, or when someone says, where are you from? He says, Wiley, Texas. He has those roots. Those things I never had, because when you ask me where I'm from, I normally say Oklahoma, because we lived in so many places within Oklahoma and even in Texas that it's just easier to say Oklahoma.
Right. Now, for a while there, and hopefully we'll get into it a little bit later, but your mom you were raised by mostly your 2 older sisters for a while there, right?
Yeah.
For a while there. And then there was a time, and don't even know, but I'll bring it up now, but that you were burned.
I was. So 5 years old. My mom struggled with alcohol addiction for the greater part of my life. She went cold turkey probably when I went off to college and never had a drink again. But throughout my childhood, she would disappear for months, years at a time. We wouldn't know. She would show up and then show back out, and we wouldn't have any contact. So probably when I was about 5 years old, we were in an apartment complex in Oklahoma City, and it had miswiring. It was like a rundown apartment complex. It didn't have the cover on it. And so we were building tents. So we actually created our own fund because of being poor. We would take sheets and we would tack them on the wall and make tents and pretty much camp out in the room.
Right.
Like, we made our fun.
Right.
And so we were in there building tents, and we're, playing around. It's the 4 youngest ones. we were always cutting up because the three older ones thought they were so mature.
Oh, yeah.
They were so much older.
Yeah.
And so I go plug in a lamp, and the wiring miswires, and electrical current comes out on my right hand, and it burns. Well, it's been years, but it burns my middle finger almost down to the bone, a little bit of the ring finger, and then my thumb because of the way it was
Right.
positioned. So I remember coming out of the room. My oldest sister, she is a very timid person, and the first thing she thinks of is to grab a stick of butter.
Ooh.
I'll never understand why she grabbed a stick of butter, but she put the butter on my hand, and it melts. Like, it's hot, it's burned. And so then the next, because we're all kids at this point,
Right.
the next thing was take your hand and wave it out the window and like wave it back and forth. Now there's an electrical burn on this hand, hindsight, and I'm waving it outside. So eventually my sister Tina was like, we got to call 911.
Right.
But we also knew not to call anyone because we're at home by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually call the fire department. They come and they're like, she has to get to the emergency room. So my mom, I don't know where she was when she got there, but eventually ended up getting to the hospital and was in the burn unit for months. So much so that I ended up having to repeat the first grade or kindergarten. I didn't repeat kindergarten, so.
And if I remember correctly, and there was also a baby that was in there.
There was. So the memory is a crazy thing. Now, if you asked me what I did last Thursday, I probably couldn't tell you.
Right.
But I can recall this baby's cry in the burn unit. And she had pulled down a teapot or a pot of coffee down the front of her. So she was burned all the way to the front.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the burn unit is skin grafting and a lot of, bandages and taking them off the skin burns. And I just remember the cry. It was just constant, like, day and night. And I just remember telling my mom, like, I want to go home. I want to go
Right.
home. Like, take me home. And, of course, like, you can't just go home because this is all burned and with bandages. And so I had to
Right.
stay. Yeah.
Do you think that resilience then has helped you today?
It has. Just because I had to start, like, not only did I have to repeat that grade, it was also learning how to write. Of course, I can see the scars, and most people be like, oh, I don't see anything. And I'm like, it's right there. So this is a reminder of how bad it could have been.
Right.
Because, you're told that if you would have plugged it in with the left hand, it could have did more damage because of how close it would have been to the heart. If there would have been a drop of water, all these factors you're told hindsight how bad it could have been.
Right.
And know that, at 5 years old, even with children and this happening, and someone, butter and put your hand out the window and wave it, just not knowing like how much time could have did more damage.
Right.
But it was still a blessing to be able to walk away and have full functioning hands. So
Right.
I have scars, but they're just friendly reminders.
Right. But not just then. I mean, but your resilience not only was then. I mean, you grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was, and then you also had a learning.
So I had dyslexia.
Okay. But
so
you didn't know that for the longest time.
Did not. And so whenever I could read like words, I could spell words, but I would get to a point where I wouldn't be able to know the difference between a B and a D. And my fifth grade teacher recognized it. And what she would do every day was put bed on the chalkboard. No one knew why she was doing it, but she would just write it if it wasn't up there from the day before, and it would be there. So whenever I had to actually spell something out loud, I would know the reference, the B comes first, then D.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the difference. And of course, I still visualize the word to this day if I'm having to write out something.
Right.
But it was a blessing to have an educator that said, something's going on here. Like,
Right.
you're grasping everything and you're reading everything. It's just when it comes to certain words, these two letters are flipped.
Right.
And yeah, that was.
But there
fifth
was
grade.
others in your family older that didn't really, because you were using, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I'm telling you a story.
It's okay. It's okay.
You were using a thing that would help you read
Yeah.
the whole way, and then your grandmother,
Yeah.
being the inspirational soul she was not, said, take that away, and she thought, take
Yeah.
that out. And so it was difficult for you to read because you didn't understand why it was hard,
Yeah.
and she didn't want to actually, it didn't seem like she was much of a help either. I'll put that very nicely way.
Our grandmother is a very unique person. She's
Nice way of
about in
saying
her
it.
90s at this point. Very strict. You can almost say she raised us without love. We were not liked, but we were tolerated when it came to my grandmother, and not just my grandmother, other relatives as well. We
The
didn't
seven
have no
sisters.
choice.
The
Yeah,
seven- right.
yeah, it's my sisters, because my mom would leave us at our grandmother's house, our grandparents' house, for months on end, school years, and so she did not like us. Think Flowers in the Attic, if you've ever seen that movie. That was the reality. And so I remember reading my books, like homework and doing what was right is my comfort zone. Like I function very well. And so I'm reading my book on the porch one day, and I have a bookmark. And I'm scrolling down like a regular kid would use a bookmark, and I'm reading and I'm doing everything I need to. And she's standing in the doorway, and my grandma looks down to me and she says, why do you have that? And I was like, it helps me keep. And she was like, get rid of it. You don't need it. And I was just like, I need it because this has helped me get through each line. Like I can see every line clearly. And she stood at the doorway until I literally removed the bookmark from my book, and I had to read. And I can't tell you that I read that book. I pretended to read that book because I knew that she was watching me. Still to this day, I'll still use a bookmark every now and again just to keep in line. But I don't know what provoked her to do that. But there was several things that my grandmother did with us growing up that made no sense. Still, even as an adult now, I would speak up for a child being treated like that. I often do if I see a child being mistreated. From my grandmother at times refused to even feed us. So again, growing up poor without means, we had to find ways to feed ourselves. So we were taught early on about recycling and gathering cans. In Homeland, I think they're still around here somewhere, they would actually take cans in. And so every Saturday morning, 4 youngest ones would get up, get a bag, and we would dumpster dive and go through people's trash and get cans and take those cans to recycling. And the money that we got from recycling, we would go to Homeland while we were there and get snacks, whatever we could afford, whether it be a lunch meat and bread, because that would be dinner. That was our very creative way of being in a situation, but being resilient through it before we even knew what resilience was at that
Right.
age. But we never understood why she didn't like us, because we would have other cousins that would come, same small house, and would visit, and she would allow them to eat inside. That was another thing. We were made to eat on the porch opposed to inside the house. She would allow them to eat whatever she was cooking, her and my grandfather, and it would be sandwiches for us. So it was like a true distinction of the way we were treated opposed to our cousins, even the color of our skin.
Right.
The darker you were, even though my grandma is a dark-skinned woman, the more hatred it appeared that she had towards you. If you were light-skinned, she would compare you to another light-skinned cousin, almost to create tension. Because as cousins, we knew we were kids and we were going to play. We loved to go outside and play. There was no, you live in Dallas, we live in Oklahoma. It was none of those distinctions on the child's level. So any hatred we grew to know, it was given to us. Because again, we were close cousins. So growing up in that type of environment, we'd love to be outside. Because being inside means that you were susceptible to abuse. My grandmother, on several times, slapped one of my sisters for something that she assumed they did. Because neither one of our parents were there, there was no protection. So we were pretty much at the mercy of the adults that were taking care of us, which created very unhealthy environments for children. And this is, reading my sister's stories and growing up, almost all of us dealt with some form of sexual abuse as a child, unfortunately. And there was no adults to tell. And even when the adults were told about sexual abuse, be it at the hands of a mother's boyfriend, an uncle, a stranger, nothing ever happened. And so it became common just to suffer in silence as a child. And then, of course, as we knew as sisters, as we started realizing that happened to you, that happened to me, or that's happening to you, or, well, grandma slapped you because of why, we started having these close bonds because it started happening to more than one of us. And then we became each other's guards. And each other's like, we got to look out for each other because this is all we have. And unfortunately, no one was really trying to take us out of that environment. And knowing my mother's struggles now, I'm more empathetic to understand why she couldn't show up for us and be that type of mom that we needed. But it doesn't take away that hurt, that pain, that anger that exists and still creeps up from time to time.
Yeah, I want to. From the reading, but sometimes you, even if you would say, hey, this is happening to us, you guys would get beat even more just to be quiet about it.
Yeah.
Which that part just Way didn't understand.
I can't say it's a culture. It was my grandparents' culture to the sense of discipline and abuse went hand in hand. What was clearly abuse was always labeled discipline, or we were cutting up, or we were doing too much. But I almost see it as hatred. If you hate something, you don't really care about the level of abuse or the level of neglect you give something because you hate it.
Right.
If you love something, you generally, even if you like something, you have a general concern about something, a sincerity about it. We never felt that. And the only love that we felt growing up, especially with absent parents, is love between sisters. So I knew I was okay, or I knew that like someone was looking out for me because I had my sisters who would check in. Or we had holes in our clothes. Our clothes were dirty when we went to school. Like, not to give a television portrait of being poor, but that was the reality. All I had was hand-me-downs until I think I got to high school, and that's only because all my sisters would have graduated by then. But by the time clothes got down to the youngest one, they could have been dirty, it could have been, no seams or whatever the case may be. But we didn't have guardians. Like living with my grandmother, and granted it wasn't her responsibility, but we didn't have adults in our lives that said, let me make sure they have, or at least look presentable. We looked presentable going to church because church was really big in my grandmother's reputation. We had to be part of the choir. We had to be active in church because to be known as a good Christian woman was better than the reality of you don't even like these children.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so even though life taught you to be strong early, nothing prepares someone to becoming a parent, which you eventually did real quick, and you became a mother.
I did.
And so, married. Wait, you went to University of Oklahoma.
I did.
Boomer.
Sooner.
There we go. And then how did you get to University of Oklahoma, by the way?
So part of us moving around, we ended up moving to Norman my middle school year, and we stayed there, and I went to so many schools within Norman because the way you're routed to school is where you lived at. And so we moved, again, a lot, stability, and my mom in and out. So I ended up staying there for middle school, stayed for high school. And then all of my friends, Norman being the college town it is, all of my close friends, were going off to college. And I was just like, oh, I got to go somewhere. And by this time, the time I was in high school, my mom had disappeared. She had signed over parental rights over to my older two sisters. And so they were my legal guardians. They made sure that I was enrolled in school. I also had a job. I was working at Pizza Hut at the time. So whenever you could work, you would work and you would start contributing to bills. It's just being raised with limited means. Everyone had to contribute. And so I ended up going to high school. One of my best friends at the time, her dad was affiliated with the University of Oklahoma. And I was blessed to have friends who had parents who saw that lack and did not mind intervening. Till to this day, I have close relationships with my best friend's parents, and they will call and they'll get on to me like, I didn't even see that, I'm sorry I didn't call you for Christmas, but they'll get on to me. And so one of their dads was like, hey, what are you going to do with your life? And I was just like, I want to go to college. I'm just not, I don't think I can afford it. And he was just like, go and apply to the University of Oklahoma. And of course, like in my mind, I was just like, never. The University of Oklahoma, like, yeah, I got the grades, but you want me to go there? And I'm like, okay. And I'd already was on track and I was working on graduating early. And so I knew that I was going to graduate with, like, all of my best friends at the time were seniors. I was considered a junior. And so I was just like, wow, what it'd be like to graduate with them and go to college too. And so, of course, I applied. And I was like, my ACT score was a 17. And don't tell my son that, because I know I stay on him like, get the ACT score up. And he's just like, Mom, you got a 17. And so, but I was like, look what I was able to do with my 17.
Right.
So I get into the University of Oklahoma. And at this time, I'm technically homeless by the time I graduate. Going back, my oldest sister kicked me out of the house after prom.
Yvette? Or?
Yvette.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
She gave me a 9 o'clock curfew on prom. And I was just like,
For
9
prom?
o'clock on prom? Like,
Please.
that's when dinner starts. And so I was, my one memorable rebellious time in life, it was like, I'm going to stay out at least till midnight on prom. It's prom. I earned this. And she said, if you come back after 9, all your stuff is going to be on the porch. And she is a woman of her word. If she is nothing else, she is a woman of her word. And so I come home and my friend is dropping me off and I see my stuff on the porch. And I was like, she was serious. So I'm like knocking on the door. She's not answering.
Right.
And I'm like trying to open the door and I'm like, she was serious. And so my friend, we load up all of my stuff in. It was like a 2-door Mazda Miata. So we're loading up this stuff. And I move in with my friend, finish my senior year. And then we graduated in May. By June, I was moving to the dorms. I had got an exception to move in early.
Nice.
And that's how I ended up at the University of Oklahoma.
Nice. That is way cool. Okay, so 4 years, what did you study?
My undergrad is in public relations,
Okay.
journalism.
All right.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I had a whole plan. I was at 11. I was like, oh, man, I'm going to be an attorney when I grow up. I'll be a judge by I'm 33. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a motorcycle at 25. I had Val's plan written out. Like,
The motorcycle part throws a little rich, but yeah.
it was at 25. Now, when 25 came around, the last thing I could do is buy a motorcycle. When 25 came around, I was pregnant with Blair.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was God also chuckling once again. He
Yeah.
shows up so much in my life and chuckles. Yeah. And so that's how I ended up at OU. I ended up staying for my master's.
Mm-hmm.
I got a master's in education. And the whole time me and Keisha, we went to college together. She went a year before I did. We ended up graduating together. So I like to say I called
Keisha's
her.
number 6?
Yeah, Keisha's right above me.
Okay, 6.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's so weird when you say 6, and I'm thinking, like, I always look at my sisters like the stair step, like,
Right.
no, Keisha's right above me, and then Tree's right above her.
Yeah.
And so we went and got our masters together at OU, which was amazing. It was an amazing journey to take that with her. And that's where I met my ex-husband.
Okay.
He was on campus. He was attending school. And we had known each other when we lived in Altus, Oklahoma. That's where we knew of each other, but we met in college.
Okay.
And he was just like, oh, this is going to be my wife. And we dated for a little bit. And we got pregnant with our first son. We got pregnant with Preston. Mm-hmm. And we ended up having a late-term miscarriage. And life changed after that, because part of my plan of becoming a judge and my motorcycle was I didn't want children.
Right.
I was career driven. I was just like, oh, like children, I'll let my sisters have all those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at that point, I think we had 1 or 2 nieces and nephews. And so when we got pregnant the first time, I just remember kind of being scared, really lost, because I was like, this was not in my plan. I had things to do.
Right.
And I remember we went to the doctor, and my sister Shasha was there with me and my ex-husband. And we're sitting there, and the nurse comes in, and she's looking for the heartbeat, and we're going to find out everything. And she's, fumbling around with it. And of course, like, comedy and humor is our default
Mm-hmm.
for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Very misplaced at times, but I'm sitting there.
You're talking about your sisters.
My sisters,
Okay,
yeah. And so I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Shy, and I'm like, it is broken. This machine is broken. You know, my OB, she should be so disappointed in herself. And so they come in with a different machine. And so we're sitting there, and they're like, but something's wrong with the cord. Like, let me try this again. She's unplugging it. And so my ex-husband, I don't even really remember. He was there, but I don't remember what he was doing. So I'm still looking at Shy, and I was just like, okay. And so she's like, has a smile on her face. And if you know, like, her smile, once she is smiling, like, it's all over her face. So her smile starts to change, and it starts to drop a little bit. And I'm like, we're going to go eat after this. It's okay. Like, humor and food is our love language. And so my OB comes in, and she's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with the machine. She was just like, there's no heartbeat. And it was just like that. And I was just like, okay, well, we'll wait around. Like, it's still not dawning on me what she's saying. And I'm looking at Cha-Cha's face, and her face lets me know the emotion has changed, like the reality. Because, again, I'm not hearing anything. And she's just looking there. She has tears in her eyes. And I'm like, I know it is such a weird moment. Like, why are you crying? And it dawns on me what happened. So we are at the doctor, and I'm at this point, like, the emotion hits me. And the doctor is pretty much telling me, like, you have to check into the hospital. You're too far along for us to do a procedure. Like, you're going to have to deliver. And I was just like, okay, like, this is weird. She was like, well, you know, you're checking at midnight, and we'll take it from there. So I go and check in. Ironically enough, we still had to go eat. We went to Olive Garden. Again, that memory thing is crazy. Right. We go to Olive Garden, we get something to eat. And I remember, like, getting clothes out to get ready to go to the hospital at midnight. And being at the hospital for 36 hours with Preston. Could not deliver. And I mean, they were just so much food. And I just remember being there. And me and my mother and I have such an up and down relationship. She says it's because we're both Leos, but it's love and hate and oil and water. But it was in that moment that I literally cried for my mom. I was just like, get my mom here. I don't, granted, got my loving husband here, get my mom here. I had some sisters who showed up, but I knew that the one person who could understand the loss of a child, the loss of what I would eventually learn would be a son, would be my mom. My mom's first child at the age of 15 was a boy. Mm-hmm. My brother Tori passed away when he was 3 from a heart condition that he had. And I just remember just throughout the years, she would tell the story about the loss of a child and what it did to her. And I remember delivering Preston, and I remember the bond and having a one-on-one and just telling him like I miss you. I never knew you, but I miss you. It was kind of like that. And it was just, and then having to say goodbye to someone you never got to say hello to. And granted, miscarriages are very common, but the bond that you have with a child at any level is immeasurable. So it was after that I was like, this parent thing, and my prayer to God was, if you give me another chance, I promise you with every breath I have in my body, I would be the best mom I can be. Like, by all means, he'll never have the childhood I had. He would, never suffer. If you just allow me to be a parent, like, you don't have to worry about this angel God. I got him. Like, that was my prayer. And we ended up getting pregnant with Blair 3 months later. 3 months later. And it was a surprise because we weren't necessarily trying to get pregnant, but we got pregnant with him, and then he became a high-risk pregnancy. So in the womb, he has given me gray hair that has multiplied over the years. He was a high-risk pregnancy. And again, that prayer was just as strong. I was just like, Lord, if you just allow this child to get here. And I was on bed rest for 4 months. Oh, wow. I know. And it was hard because I don't like really sitting down. Like, I can be to myself, but I got to move around. I at least got to clean my house, and not even to be able to clean. And my doctor was like, it's in God's hand at this point. And we got through the first trimester. I was just like, okay, the first hurdle is down. We're going to be okay. And then, of course, like, he comes a little bit before his due date. And I'm like, okay, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Lord, your will. And no one in my family has ever had a C-section. So it's all been natural births. And I'm like, okay, so the doctor, I'm in labor for 14 hours with Blair. And after 14 hours, she comes in, she says, well, we're going to have to do an emergency C-section because at this point it's a risk for both of you all. And my ex-husband at the time, we were experiencing some really bad marital problems at this point. Like, while I'm on my way to deliver our child, he's nowhere to be found. He's not at the hospital. No one knows where he's at. And so my mom is there. My mom is got scrubs on. She is ready to go back. So my mom and my ex-husband are not friends. They are not even acquaintances. She did not like him. And so when he disappeared, she was not sad because she was going to go see the birth of the 17th grandchild. And so she was there. And I wouldn't have wanted any other way than have my mom next to me.
Right.
So we're wheeling back and we're about to get ready to go back for surgery. And he comes around the corner. And my mom is 5 foot strong. And she gives him this look. My ex-husband is about 6'2", 6'3". She gives him this look like he could have died if looks could have killed that day. And so she didn't get to go back. He goes back and Blair comes out and he cries. And as soon as I hear this cry, it's just kind of like that whole prayer was answered. Mm-hmm. And they lift him up over the sheet and his head is a cone head. And I remember praying like, Lord, if you could just not give him my hips and fix that head, I ask for nothing else. So, and at this point I'm crying. And I don't know if I'm crying because of his head shape or I'm crying because like I'm just not hearing his cry. But I was just like, I tell him that story all the time. And he's just like, Mom. And I'm just like, so happy your head, rounded out.
Without me asking for it.
Absolutely. So that's parenting. And Blair's named after Preston.
Okay.
His middle name is Preston. And so that was something I wanted to keep because my prayer was answered, but I also realized that I couldn't have had both of them. Mm. And the Lord gave me the one that I needed to have.
Right.
And so he definitely grew me up. I was 25 when I had him, but he made me the woman and the mom that I am.
Right.
And continues to groom and shape me just when I think I got it figured out.
Right.
But being a mom has made everything worth it.
So no motorcycle, but Blair.
Yeah.
At 25.
He took my motorcycle dream.
Man, look at him. What was the hardest part about balancing motherhood and responsibility then?
It was hard.
Yeah.
I didn't have a grasp on how much it costs to take care of a child.
Oof.
And I thought, college educated, I have my master's, we should be okay. And between daycare and everything, just basic necessities, it was hard. And I came out of college making about $27,000 a year. And daycare was $600 and some odd a month, and then baby formula, and then trying to get back to school, get back to work. And so when I had him, I didn't have any leave. So I went back to work 6 weeks after having him. And my doctor was very, hesitant to even release me. And I was just like, I got to go back. I don't have money. Right. I don't have a paycheck. I got to go back and work. And the day that I actually had Blair, we were in hospital, September 15th, is the day that I separated from my ex-husband. He left the hospital and went somewhere. And I moved in with Trisha when I had Blair. She drove us home. She drove us home in her big black Aurora. We were just kind of sliding over the back seat. And I've been a single parent since I had Blair. And so it's all he's ever known. But it was, again, that was that prayer of, Lord, if you allow me to be a mom, I'll do whatever it takes to raise this child. And that has always been my driving force. And I don't care if it was work 1 or 2 jobs, move to somewhere you don't know anyone. But the promise, the blessing that the Lord gave me was the promise that I knew I was going to always keep.
Right.
So.
What kept you moving forward in all these years? What was it that the commitment to God that, you blessed me, I'm now going to continue on with what you blessed me with? Or
it was a commitment to God and appreciating the prayer, but it was also having someone look at me as their protector.
Right.
And looking at me for that guidance.
Right.
And I never wanted to disappoint my son. Right. I can disappoint 1,000,001 people in this world and it still sleep like a baby. Mm-hmm. if he ever told me he was disappointed in me, I'd probably be like,
No.
no, like, let me
Right.
go and do something. But I never wanted to appear to be a disappointment to him. And I also wanted him to know that you can do it.
Right.
You can push through things, and it gets hard, but you can still do it.
But you were also breaking a cycle then, because you were going to be the mom. You were going to be there, unlike your mom that wasn't always there.
Yeah.
Was at the end, and her mom, your grandma, which that was a whole another show.
Yeah.
Right there. So you were going to break the cycle and say, "This is who I am right now," and that kind of stuff. When you look at your son now, what part of yourself do you see in him?
Oh, so many. So many. Just perseverance, if nothing else. This kid can, like, push himself to a level. I can motivate him all day and be like, Blair, like, you're great, XYZ, and you're good at this, and you'll be great. And he'll just be like, and then all of a sudden you see this, like, like, I got this. I can do this. Like, and he does not, him trying is going over and beyond in my book.
Right.
The things he do naturally are amazing. And I
Right.
sit at him sometimes and I look upside his head and he's like, why are you staring at me? I'm like, you are amazing, kid. Like, you are able to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to football practice. You're carrying a AP load. You're preparing for college and you got to work. And then by some means, you still have time to check on your mom. And you genuinely have friendships. Like, you don't just game. You have genuine friendships
Right.
where your friends call you for life advice. And I'm like, and I always look at him like, what kind of advice are you giving? Because you don't go through anything. And he does. He experienced some things. But
Right.
to see him navigate things when you don't think your children are ready, and he surprises me, and I'm like, I got it all figured out.
I heard 5 a.m.
Yeah.
waking up, and that lost me from there on. That's like the struggle with that's like
Yeah.
Lord's work right there, waking up that early.
The crazy thing is that I'm the morning owl, and he's the night owl. Well, I'm the
Right.
morning bird, and he's the night owl. And if I have to wake up at 5 o'clock, he's grumpy.
Right.
For football, sports, he'll get up.
No problem at all.
No
huh?
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I get up at 10 o'clock, if I'm trying to wake him up, he's like, Mom, like, 2 more hours. And I'm like, it's 10 o'clock. I done been up since 4.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, perseverance.
All right. So struggles.
Yes,
God's blessed you though, but still struggles.
absolutely.
And then you heard the scariest words. I mean, life threw you another curveball.
Yeah.
You're like, the scariest words I think a person can hear when the doctor said brain cancer.
Yeah.
Right. And then, can you take us back to that moment, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind, when you heard that, and what were you thinking?
Absolutely. So I go in. I almost never have gotten headaches. Unless I was hungry. But I was in like really bad headaches, really bad migraines. And I go into my primary care physician. And I'm like, something's going on. I'm getting real bad migraines. Like, and she was like, oh, do you have a history? I'm like, no. So she sends me in for an MRI. And I'm on the phone with Shasha. And I'm like, yeah, I want to send me for an MRI. This is crazy. So I go do the MRI, and I'm driving home on the phone with Shasha again. And I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. Like, hold on right quick. My doctor's calling me. So my PCP called me. And she's like, I need you to come back to the office right now. I pulled over. I burst out crying because I was like, they never call you back this fast. It's like
Right.
something is wrong. And she calls me back. She says, we want to send you over to a specialist, for neurologicals. Your scans came back a little abnormal. We just want to follow up. And, of course, this is in January of 2018. And life is great up until this point. Like, we just closed on the house September 2017. Beautiful. Everything is going well. Work is cool, calm, and collected. Good. January 2018, we go and get the MRI. It comes back abnormal. So it's like, okay, we're going to do a testing here. We do a spinal tap. We do medicine. It's just not getting worse. Migraines are just, lights are triggering it. It's just getting horrible. So eventually, the neurologist sends me over to UT Southwestern to specialists. So I do scans there, and I'm waiting in this waiting room. It's like an all-white room, and there's this digital clock that's like ticking. I'm on the phone with Shasha again.
Seems to be a pattern.
I talk to her a lot. And I'm like, Shy, I'm in this room, and all I can hear is this ticking noise, and it's this crazy because I feel like my life is being counted down. And it's like tick, 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 and I'm sitting there, and it's like almost an hour. So I was like, okay. And I'm looking, I was like, I would get up and leave, and I'm on the phone. She was like, no, you need to stay. And I'm like, I've been sitting here for an hour. So a nurse comes in and she says, Miss Fields, we're really sorry for the wait, but the doctor that specializes in your brain cancers and surgery. And so I'm sitting there, I'm on the phone with Shasha, and I was like, and she's charting, she gets up and she walks out, and I said, did you just hear what I heard? She said, the doctor that specializes in my brain cancer, like, are you serious? Like, and so Shai's like, I'm, again, not paying attention. She's on the phone. She was like, Val, okay, it's going to be okay. Like, wait until the doctor gets there. So she gets off the phone to go do something. I'm sitting in the same room. And again, all I can hear is that tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, it's literally a headache. It's not brain cancer. Like, it clearly got something wrong. So my doctor comes in, and the first thing she does, she gives me a hug. And I immediately called Shy back. I was like, I'm going to die. They don't ever give you a hug. Come in here.
Oh, no. Oh.
I said, she gave me a hug. I'm going to die. I just know it. And so Dr. Patel, she's like, I'm a hugger. She's like, I hug everybody. She's like, I'm so sorry. Because she could see me getting like really tense and nervous. And she was just like, okay, I'm going to pull the scans up. And she was like, she shows me the abnormality in the brain. And I'm thinking to myself like, oh, okay, like, what is it? Like, it's just like a flare? Like, it's like the picture was wrong? And she was just like, we'll keep an eye on it. It's, slow growing. We're going to actually have to see if we get a biopsy to see exactly what type it is. But she was like, based off of what I think it is, it's this type of brain tumor. So I'm just sitting there and I'm still numb, and I got Shy on speakerphone so she can hear what the doctor says to come back and tell me later. And so eventually, like, the migraines got so bad. By June of 2018, I had brain surgery on the right side to remove the tumor. And it was crazy because, so the type of tumor it is called a oleogodringlioma. It's a really long word.
Say that 3 times real fast, yeah.
Oh, I know, right? I just say brain tumor.
Thank you.
But anytime I would tell someone, like, hey, like, it's brain cancer, by default, I would get this look of death in return. It would be like, oh my God, how long do you have? And I'm like, there's so many different types of brain cancer out there. And who would have known that I would be in the right place to be diagnosed? UT Southwestern is the top 3 for the type of brain tumor that I have, brain cancer that I have. And so, again, I never would have dreamed of being in Dallas to live, but this is where God positioned me to be. And it's such a hindsight blessing to say I'm thankful that I was in the right place to catch it, and that a simple headache brought me in enough time for it to be removed.
Right.
The downside is the type of brain cancer it has a high recurrent rate. So the tumor came back as a grade 2, the first one that was removed, and all grade 2s go to grade 3, and grade 3 goes to grade 4. It's just a matter of today, tomorrow, 60 years from now. So it's a constant monitoring. So every 3 months, this whole process is gear up, take the MRI. For 6 months straight, I got bad news every time I went and got an MRI. Like, oh, it's still there. Oh, it's growing slightly. So there's this anxiety that comes from the MRI. You want to know, you want to be able to catch it soon. So you go, and then it's no sleep, take MRI. And then my neuro-oncologist is amazing because she has an appointment like right after the MRIs. And so we'll regroup, and she'll be like, hey, okay, everything's okay. It's growing slowly. You can keep an eye on it. We've been keeping an eye on this tumor for 5 years now. So it's slow growing. I'm still here, fully functional. But then there's that whole like 2 months of peace. And then you know that the MRI is coming back around, so the anxiety builds.
Right.
So, and again, just having a son who has been through this journey is amazing, because he can definitely pull out things where I'm like not my best that day, and he'll just be like, I got it. Like, I'll take care of it. Like, oh, don't let him cook dinner because I'm getting the best macaroni and cheese ever. But, he's that kid that this right here also built him up and brought out a side of him that I never would have seen. Like, he is such his own little protector. Now, maybe that's sons and moms, but he's a protector, but I always wanted to protect him being a kid,
right, and
not having to be a caregiver.
Okay, but the thing that gets me is the thing I heard was, through all that story, was you found out you had brain cancer from a nurse that said it out loud.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, the doctor takes care of brain cancers, and that's when you go, wait, I have what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is how it happened. And to this day, I always, we joke about it. Like, yeah, I just remember sitting there and she came in and so casually said it. I can only assume that she may have thought I already knew.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, she so casually said and she typed it. And I was so shocked to hear it that I couldn't even tell her, like, wait, what? Like,
Right.
you said what now?
Yeah.
And then, of course, my doctor comes in and gives me a hug. And emotionally, I was like all over the place.
Right.
And of course, now when I see my doctor, I'm like, she gives me a hug and
Yeah, now
I
it's the old
take
hat.
it.
Yeah.
But that's how I found out.
And Shasha was with you again on the
She was on the phone with
Yeah.
me.
That's good.
Yeah, it's just after being diagnosed and after the surgery, I experienced a little bit of like memory lapse
Right.
and a little short-term memory fog, which is its own fear. My dad's side has dementia and Alzheimer's. My father passed away in December 2017. He had a stroke and early onset dementia. My grandmother, Val, whom I'm named after, she had dementia as well. And so my biggest fear with this, especially with memory problems, is eventually getting there one day.
Mm-hmm.
And not knowing my father's side of the family history to really know precursors or anything that
Right.
may have in your lineage. It's that void. So it's a fear. So I take a lot of pictures. I document a lot of things because I don't want to one day not know. And of
Right.
course, if it does happen, I won't know, but
Right.
that's one of my biggest fears I have now.
And you didn't really know your dad that well. I mean, he was like,
Didn't.
he was your dad
Mm-hmm.
biologically, but then you didn't really know him because you guys moved up to Oklahoma right away. And then when you were younger,
Mm-hmm.
you went to go visit him with your sister, your older, one step above sister. Sorry,
Yes,
I'm getting it right. Keisha. And he basically said, she can stay, but you go home.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of nice fatherly thing to do, not.
We've never had a relationship. That was the one summer that my mom sent us to go visit my dad. And so she sends me and Keisha, the youngest two.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else at this point is older and out of the house. And we go and visit. I'm thinking like, oh, okay, we'll build a relationship now. Like, this is what I've been missing my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're raised with one parent. You always think like, would have been better if I was my dad. And so we go and visit. And immediately we're bumping heads. And I'm 10 or 11 at this age. Again, a very respectful kid in my opinion. And he had said something regarding us being there. And I was just like, if you don't want us to be here, we'll go home. You can send us home. Now, my sister Keisha has always been like my Siamese twins. My mom used to actually dress us up like twins. And I remember sitting next to her. And he was just like, you can go, but she can stay. And I was just like, in that moment, I was like, well, why don't you want both of us here?
Mm-hmm.
But we really never had a bond. Like, there was never, I can't tell you if I ever hugged my father, let alone ever got a kiss or anything from him. I was raised to not like him. He, by his own actions, affirmed me not liking him or not having a relationship with him. He abused my older sister, sexually abused my sister when she was younger. And so we weren't raised in the house with him. So that was the first interaction I had with my father. And he sent us back home shortly after that statement. And then when I graduated from college, I was just like, I'm going to try this thing again. Because it was always that void of maybe I just didn't give him the opportunity, opposed to him just not wanting to be a father to us. And so I got college graduation, got my announcement, and I was like, this right here is going to be something to be proud of. Like, I'm one of the first daughters, because I'm graduating with Keisha, to graduate college. Like, we're the first. Like, who would not be proud of this?
Right.
So I drive down from Norman. We go to Houston first where my older sister's living. And then we drive, my mom's in a car. So it's me, Yvette, Keisha, Shashai, and my mom. We drive to Port Arthur from Houston. And I'm like, okay, we know that he's going to be at his job. So we go to his job because my mom remembers where it's at. And I was just like, hey, like, can I talk to Vern Lee? Like, his daughter's outside. So he comes outside and he's giving me this look of, why are you here, immediately? And I was just like, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm graduating from college. Like, here's an announcement. And he doesn't even take it. He was just like, if you don't leave this property, I'm going to call the police. That was the last conversation I had with my dad. I left. I cried all the way back to Houston. And I was just like, I just don't understand, like, why he doesn't want a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I was just, like, so heartbroken, because I was like, man, like, you should be proud. And he wasn't. He affirmed that he didn't even want anything to do, like, not even my physical presence. And the next time I would see my dad would be at my great-grandmother's funeral, Val Jeans. She raised him as her son. So she's my great-grandmother, but he would call her mom. And so I saw him at her funeral, but we never even said hello to each other. Then he passed away 2017. And it was just this, it was almost like a relief. Because there was no more, did I make you proud? Did I, right. You know, are you going to show up for this? The ironic thing about going to his funeral was I was there with my 4 older siblings right above me, from Tina down, are all his biological children. My 2 older sisters have a different father.
Right.
And in seeing about 6 other siblings that he raised that were active in their lives. And so there was a slideshow at his funeral. We weren't in any of those pictures. It was all his children. Like, he was at graduations, he was at all these things, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, there's a lot of people in this world that looks like me, but I don't know them. They're, you know, half brothers and sisters. And that was that closure for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't know him alive, and it was hard to mourn someone you don't really know.
Right.
Or that you didn't like or didn't like you. And it's crazy to say that as a parent, that you don't like your parent.
Right.
I don't like the person he was to others, especially my mom, my sisters, and the way he was towards me. And so I really didn't have a relationship with my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow. So, you've been through a lot of struggles, and then you went through another season of loss, yeah. A moment where you said you started from scratch all over again.
Yeah. I've been in my career after I graduated college. My first job was in higher education. Been in higher education for over 20 years. And who would have ever known that, you know, my job would be eliminated and the whole department dissolved. And, you know, we talked about this previously. You know, my prayer for this year was for me to do God's will and for me to walk into my purpose. And however uncomfortable he had to make me, or situations, in order for me to move that comfort zone and actually walk into his will, please do that. Because if I'm comfortable, I don't move. I don't change unless it's changed for me.
Right. And
I don't do well with change. And so God created this environment that I had to change. But it was the blessing I never knew, because I got really comfortable in doing what I was doing. I didn't love what I was doing. It was no longer a passion for it. And the whole job went away. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, what do I do now? Like, this is where my degree is at. This is all I know. And God was like, this is not all you know. Like, I took you through life's challenges to give you experiences that no degree was ever going to capture. And so starting a business of mediation and parenting coordinating, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, like, what do you see yourself doing? It'd have been like, hey, in about 7 to 8 years, I'm going to retire and probably do something for fun. It would have never been a career change.
Right.
But it had to be uncomfortable, because I would have never left.
Right.
And nothing is more uncomfortable than non-existing and losing it all. Mm-hmm. And when I say losing it all, to be financially sound, because you work so hard. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to always be able to give my son that better life.
Right.
I never want him to see those struggles. In my eyes, a struggle is not knowing if this bill is going to be paid on time.
Right.
Or am I going to be able to send you to that football camp? Like, am I going to be able to replace the shoes that you grew out of?
Right.
that was my sense of struggling for him. And thank the Lord that he has never seen that sense. Like, he's knowing that we're changing now.
Right.
But no job offers, and bills are still due. Savings account depleted, because right after being diagnosed with brain cancer, my ex-husband started a custody battle. So 5 years in custody in another state, $70-something thousand later. All the savings that you set aside for the rainy days, but I also knew that every dime I had was going to go to fight for that child, the child that didn't ask to be here, the child that I prayed about, the child that I said whatever it takes, and literally it was whatever it takes. It was without question. If I had to lose it all in order to make sure that Blair was going to be okay, I'd lose it all again.
Right.
And I did. And it was just one of those things, okay, like, now that custody is settled, we're here, what's next? How do you get back on your feet? Okay, we got to live way beyond whatever means we think we're at, and we got to start over. Starting over with a child who is used to a certain way of life looks different, because he's still used to, we should be able to do this, we should be able to do that, and it looks different for him.
Right.
For me, it's just going back to my childhood. It's going back to, you weren't raised with anything, and you had to make do with what you had. Now you have to make do with what you have now.
Right.
And so that how my childhood structured who I am right now, I'm okay with starting over right now. It could be worse. So we're going to take the roof that we do have over our head, and we're going to keep it. It may not be 16-foot tall ceilings, but it's a roof.
Right.
So, yeah. Starting all over again.
I know a lot of people, though, and this is a lot of people, just any one of the 14 things you've thrown out here would be like, oh, that was devastating. And it is. Yeah. But there's got to be a point where you're saying, okay, God, I would like a good answer here, because the childhood you went through, and then God blessed you going to college, which was a great thing, right? And then a son, then you lost a son, then you lost a husband at the day that your son was born, raised a parent like that, brain cancer. Whew. And then you're saying, okay, now we got to start, but I'm going to take care of you, and we're going to start all over again, and here's where we're at. That get going. And that's just, I call that strength. I don't know. And I know you lean on, and rightfully so, lean on God for that strength, but amazing of what you've come through and are still doing. Okay, so through all of this, every high and every low, and there's been some lows. I would imagine so. Your sisters have been a constant with you, and now your story together is finally being shared with the world here. Yeah. So Trisha's Daughter, a Memoir of Survival, right? There was more to the title than that, though, right?
I'm pretty sure it is, but that's the gist of it.
That was the gist of it, and we'll have that. It'll be showing the links here, because I highly recommend reading it. It was a really good book. But let's talk about that incredible book of Trisha's Daughters. How did the idea of your sister's stories begin?
So probably once we all hit adulthood and started having children and life experiences, we have to make it a point to carve out time for each other. We all grew up together. We were best friends. But as we started to navigate, a couple sisters went to the military, got married, kids, whatever. We do Sister Weekend. So we get together one weekend out of every year, and we just congregate. We have conversations. But we knew how we were raised and why we got to this point, because we would talk to other people and be like, hey, like, when's the last time you talked to like a sister? They'd be like, I haven't talked to my brother in like years. And we're like, I talk to 3 of my sisters every day. And so we knew we had that sister bond, and we knew how we got here. It's just that when people would see us on the outside, they would say, oh, you guys are so close. Like, how do your mom have 7 girls and all of you all, been to college or you're successful? And we're just kind of like, people always just saw the end result, and they never knew us. Right. They always knew the version that survived. Right. And so my sister Patrice, Tree, she is she has an ideal, she's always going to go towards it. So for years, she would be like, you all, we have a survivor story. We got to tell the story. It's a testimony. We got to get it out here. We got to help other people. It's just what we've been through. We have to share. And so she would always be on us. And for one reason or another, we would always be like, no, it's not a good time. And she would start writing it, put it down. And then something else would happen. And she would get sidetracked or start a new business or take her career journey somewhere else. So eventually she sits down and she says, you know, I prayed about it. This is God's will. Like, we really need to get our story out here. Like, she was like, I just can't put my finger on as to why now, but it needs to be now. Mm-hmm. So she was like, I'm going to do the interviews. I'm going to take it on. And everyone was just like, okay, if you call me, you do the interview, we'll do it. So she sits down over the summer. Probably she started back in March with the initial. It may have been earlier than that, but that's when we started having conversations about it. And she was like, I'm going to tell our story. And she was like, it's going to be hard. But she took everything in, got the book in draft form, sent it around, editing, and this incredible story that she put together. Even though we lived it, we knew it, I still had to read the book. Mm-hmm. All of my sisters read the book. And it was just kind of like that eye-opener phrase of, I didn't know that's what you went through. Right. Or I didn't know that's what I was protected from. Or right. I didn't know you were abused too. Or I didn't know that you didn't know the difference between a D and a B the whole time you were in elementary school. Those things came out, and it was a hard conversation. It was a hard conversation for several people. I don't think my grandmother has read the book. I don't think she ever will.
Right.
I think there are people who would have wished it was never written.
Right.
But it wasn't written for the people who would be ashamed. It was written for the people who went through things like we did.
Right.
And maybe going through it right now, but also can tell it's going to be okay. There's a way out of it. Every storm has to end.
Did writing it heal something that wasn't healed from before?
Or did it
open
healed.
Up wounds?
I thought there were part of my lives that I was healed, especially involving the relationship with my mom.
Right.
I was like, I had empathy and I understood what she went through to a certain degree, but then part of me got angry all again when I had to retell the story and when I reread it. And I was just like, why did I have to have that childhood? Like, oh, why were you not there for me? Because it's very common for us to say within our sisters is that we all know a different version of my mom. Mm-hmm. And reading the book is so true because the version that I see is a mom who was rarely there. My older sister sees a mom who gave her a lot of responsibility and who was more active, or she understood why she was making certain decisions for the little ones. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, reading my mom's story and the things that she went through, we didn't know all of those things. I didn't know all those things. Mm-hmm. So part of me battling things that I thought I forgave, things I thought I was healed from, I had to recognize at 43, I was not.
Right.
Which is a whole different healing journey because you're writing a book about healing and you're like, I am not healed myself. But healing is like forgiveness that I've now come to understand. Like you have to really work at it for it to work.
Right.
I can't just say I'm healed or I survived this or it was 20 something years ago. Unless I truly deal with it and process those emotions, they can creep back up on you by accident. You could be triggered. Right. I'm very protective of my son, but I'm also protective of him because of the protection I didn't get as a kid. Mm. And now that he understands me better, he now knows why I'm strict in certain areas, why I parent him the way I do.
Right.
So this book has brought up a lot of conversations that as a family we needed to have. This no longer gets to be a family secret. It no longer gets to be the story that no one knows at the end of the day. When this dash is over, there are people who have known me for over 40 years that can honestly say, I actually know her. Not the version that she wanted me to know, but I actually know her. Like that probably make a lot of things make sense about me.
Right.
But that shadow I got to hide behind, that imaginary, my parents loved me, or were there for me, or not being as poor as we seem, you get to know Val. Mm-hmm. You get to know Val Shayla, not just who I want you to know. And
So the book is written, and I won't get too much. I mean, I can, but
it's okay.
the book is written in by each in steps, as you
Yes.
said, starting with the oldest one,
Yeah.
their story,
Yeah.
and then the next story, and then the next, and you see it through the eyes of each one of them. And I'll honestly, I was sitting there so many times, just my heart ached, was disturbed at times, and then it also felt resilient because I was like, my goodness, they came through this stuff with a healthy relationship with God, a healthy with Trisha's daughters, as you guys like to call yourself, and get together. But it was rough, to be honest with you, and I would imagine it was rougher for you to actually tell the stories, each one of you. But there was a part where I remember we were talking earlier where you finally let your son read the book,
Yeah.
right? And then when he read it, there was some trepidation, I would imagine,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. But then when he read it, I think there was a whole new respect that he looked at you with the different eyes and went, wow, mom's a fighter.
Yeah.
And you looked at your sisters and went, wow, they're fighters.
Absolutely.
Because every one of them had a up and down relationship with your mother. Like, so the first two were, as you said earlier, were born from with another father, and then the five of you, and you were gone, and your mom tried to break away several times, and then and when we talk about abuse, this
Yeah.
was
It's some pretty heavy abuse.
Right.
I mean, on the brink of almost killing my mother.
right.
Very, and not just one or two times, like very abused, very just. When I heard abuse growing up, my mom would say, your dad beat me. I would, in my mind, would vision a slap. And not to condone or say that's lighter or heavier, but it was nothing for her to literally fear for her life and flee in the middle of the night. Where we would move from Texas to Oklahoma and run to my grandparents' house, but he would beat her so severe, again, causing miscarriages, causing, broken bones, causing bruises, everything. Just a very hateful man. And so the abuse that she suffered at his hands and the fact that she was able to escape. But one of the reasons, she would tell us, like, why it was so hard to stay away is because she had kids. She had so many kids and providing. But he would also get to a point where threatened to not allow her to take certain daughters. If you read Elaine's story, she would tell you totally different version of a father than I would tell you in mine, where I'm like, I had no relationship with him. She can recall times where he took her fishing, or he would do her hair, or he would toss her up in the sky, and I'm like, were you raised in the same house as me? But there's just a different father that he presented to my sister Jackie or Elaine that he did for me. But my mom, there were times where she wanted to go and he was just like, you can go, but you're not going to take the kids. And she would stay because she knew that we wouldn't have any protection if she did leave. So to know that she risked her life for the sake of ours, is that grace and understanding as a mom I have. Hands down, if Blair ever needed a heart, take mine. You can take mine, like, without hesitation. Like, I'm going to step in front of that bullet every single time.
Right.
So I understand why she made the sacrifices that she did, even though I don't agree with everything that she continued to do afterwards. But also getting to know my mom and understanding what addiction does to a person in an abusive situation, where she just wanted to escape. She wanted to feel numb because of everything that she had experienced for all these years. And I was just like, as a child growing up, I hated it. I hated not having a mom around, or I hated every time she was around, she was drunk, or you could smell alcohol, or that she never showed up to a school event because she would be passed out drunk somewhere. Like, I never saw my mom at any track meet or any awards, so I only saw her at graduations. And she would show up and be the proudest parent, and then part of me would be resentful because I'm like, you were not here through the whole journey, you showed up at the end. And again, like, she survived everything she survived in order to see that ending.
Mm-hmm.
But the blessing is that she got to see it, especially after surviving abuse from the hands of my father.
And then at the end of at the last chapters of the book is written from your mom. You get to hear her story finally.
Absolutely.
So honestly, I read every chapter, and then when I was really quite frustrated with your mother, and me as a reader, not living through your life, me as a reader, quite frustrated, and I didn't understand a whole lot, and at point angry. Now some of it brought up stuff in other people or maybe my own life that made me kind of go, and then you start to read her story, and you're thinking, okay, like this strength that she had. Now it was hard, but when you guys would get together as Trisha's daughters, which I guess was your way of always saying, we're Trisha's daughters. That's who we are. That's our calling. That's our bond right there. What do you hope the readers feel when they finish this memoir?
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay?
It's going to be okay. Because given, statistically speaking, as young black women, 7, born to a single black mom who college educated, but in poverty, very poor. We heard from our family, and of course statistics, everywhere you turn, it said that we should have been teenage moms, dropouts, on drugs of some sort, some form of addiction, some sketchy job. We were never to excel to be college graduates. We weren't supposed to be successful women. And growing up and hearing relatives, aunts, cousins, grandparents tell you you're not going to be anything, and become, tooting our own horn, some of the most successful people in this family by our own rights, and never even getting the apologies, but to hear it so often in your childhood, you're not going to be anything. Both sides, mom and dad side. It's a blessing that we did make it through all that, but we also knew that as Trisha's daughters, we had something to prove. Not even so much to the world, but to ourselves. When you hear that you can't for so long, then what if I do? What if I can?
Right.
What does that look like? And then as life started happening, my sister started going to college. I had an example. Yeah, you can go. Okay, college didn't work out. Military, you can go. And so you start seeing this I can develop, even when you're not asking for it. My sister who had my nephew at 18, like, she raised my nephew and graduated high school, went on to college, successful. And where the world kept saying, you should not have that acclimate, you should not be able to do this. And to see that we were breaking those curses, we were breaking those generational curses, we were hitting that level. And then we became competition within each other, like, okay, you got a master's, I'm gonna go get my master's. Okay, you bought a house, I can buy a house too. So then it became that whole, like, okay, and that encouragement, that camaraderie that we had as siblings, it's unmatched. We can have friends, we can have, church members, we can be part of a sorority, but the encouragement and the guidance that we get from being each other's siblings because of our history and our journey is, you'll read in the book, but unless you really live it with a sibling, and best friends and worst enemies, good and bad, and they're gonna call you, even when you don't want to be held accountable. I have sisters who be like, okay, now look, you're doing too much. Mm-hmm. Or why did you not do that? It's that level of the strength. And going through it, you don't call it strength, you just call it survival. Mm-hmm. You call it, we had to figure out a way to eat, we had to figure out a way to go to school, we had to figure out a way to navigate life, bullies, so many things, abusive relationships, accountability, parenting. The encouragement that we got from each other is what kept us going. So it's a story of survival, but to anyone, I'll say it's going to be okay, and you're going to get through it. It may not be today or tomorrow, but you'll get through it.
But you had, it sounds so wrong to say, everybody was against you.
Yeah.
Except for 6 others. Mm-hmm. and eventually the mom jumped back in. But
Yeah.
everybody was against it. I mean, not just against you, but like vehemently negative
Yeah.
in more ways than one. And then you guys said no, and now the six of you, I can imagine how that pride of a only as a team. I'm thinking sports here, that kind of says, we did this, didn't we? When people didn't think we could, we did it. And there has to be something. Now, you have right, and will always say it wasn't just you guys, it was God going through all the way through that, and which I find it nice and hard to believe that you didn't say, God, I don't want anything to do with you because you're definitely not looking at me because of all this stuff that happened. And yet you guys had this strength all along to follow him, or along with that one kind of stuff.
Oh, I've had conversations with God. I had one, and it was right after I got diagnosed and right at the beginning of the custody battle. I remember laying in bed, and there are certain sisters that I talk to, if not daily, at least every other day. And if they don't hear from me, then they'll start to do this crazy thing of hunting me down. And I remember reaching out to them, and I was like, hey, I'm going to take a couple of days. I'm just not going to talk to anyone. I just need to clear my head. And I was breaking down. I was having a mental meltdown. I was just like, dear Lord, I was like, if you want me to fight this battle, you're going to have to come down here and tell me yourself. And I remember that prayer, and I was just like, I am done. I don't have anything else in me, Lord. I'm just tired. This battle is too big for me. And I'm laying in bed, and of course I've already done my speech, and don't contact me, I'll contact you, so that I can wallow in my own depression without someone calling me. So I'm laying in bed. My brother-in-law, who is a reverend, sends me a song, and it's not over as long as God is in it. And I'm like, so it's Shasha's husband. So I call Shasha, and I'm like, how dare you tell Lee about what's going on with me? Like, sister code. And she was like, Val, I didn't tell him anything. She's like, I haven't talked to him. And I was like, so he just randomly sends me this song after I sit up here and told God if he wanted me to keep fighting that he's going to have to show up? And she was like, yeah, he did. And I was just like, okay, Lord. Okay, about this husband. But I was just like, I realized in that moment that the fights that I didn't think I could fight, or I thought I was done with, or I was like, I'm depleted. Lord, I don't even have $20 to put in my gas tank to get to Tulsa to get to court. Something would happen, and I would get there. And every time I didn't want to fight the battle, like, God was like, okay, I'm going to let you know I'm here, but you're also going to have to lean on me, and you're going to have to give it to me and stop trying to operate in Val, and you're going to have to operate with me as the head.
Right.
And that right there was a very humbling moment, a walk in my life, because Val had it all figured out. Like, if you look at my calendar, I can tell you where I need to be and everything that needs to go and when to get it done. And this was so out of my control that my prayer had to change from give me strength to, Lord, this is yours. Like, allow me to be silent and let people see you through me. And it came on some of the darkest days, on days that I wanted to be a sailor and cuss out everybody from the judge to the person that cut me off in traffic. But it was just the strength that I got from my sisters, the random phone calls that they didn't know was saving me that day. The random songs that showed up when I'm like, Lord, you got to stop. Like, I don't have any more to give. And it would be like, you got to live it more.
Right.
Like, this isn't over. And when the custody battle was over and we got the final notice, I wasn't even expecting it. I was in my kitchen trying to cook. And if you know me, cooking is not my spiritual gift at all. So if I'm ever in the kitchen cooking, it's probably because I'm stressed out. And so I'm in the kitchen doing something. My attorney calls me and she says, Val, we won. And I was like, we won what? Like, what? We got to go back to court. And I'm still like thinking like, we're going. She was like, no, it's done. We won. And I break out in the shout, and I was like, I got to call you back. I got to call my sisters. So I call my sisters up, and I'm like, we won, it's over. And they were just like, finally, because they may have not been in court with me every day, but they were there for me the whole time. And their experiences, what we learned, is that one sister may have gone through it, or maybe going through it, but there's another sister who has been through something similar. So nothing that we go through is unique. It's unique to us, but there's a sister I can call and say, hey, like, this custody, it's a challenge. Like, I'm having to drive 4 hours and I don't have it in me. And then you have that small encouragement. You get the, hey, I just called to check on you. When the world is so busy, expecting Val to show up as a co-worker, Val to show up as a part of the ministry, Val to
Right.
show up to do anything, no one ever knew that I was in the middle of a custody battle.
Right.
And so, yeah, like, my sisters have been my backbone and have saved me from a whole lot. But when I tell you, me and God we've had plenty of conversations about Val's will and his will.
Right.
And what that looks like. So,
Well, I would especially because it would seem like, I don't know, but the struggles you guys went through to grow up together, you must have felt like we did this on our own. Or why did you ignore me, God? Why did you let me go through this kind of thing? How did you deal with that?
I think even as an adult, I still wonder.
Right.
Like, did you have to take me through all that to get me here? And
Right.
every single time the answer is yes. Every single time, because it's, okay, what if you were raised with a father? You may not be the mom you are right now. You might not have the goals and aspirations because of the struggles that you went through, the sacrifice that you had to make early on. Like, it's kind of like when I think about my sons, not having both of them. Love them dearly. One never got to even hear a cry. The other one, I hear his voice every day.
Yeah.
But appreciative that I got the opportunity to see both. So I don't know what it would be like with life with two sons, but I can tell you the life I have with one is a blessing. And so it's never wanted to take any kind of joy or glory from what God did and what we did, because I think that takes us out of our walk. And we've been rooted in Christ since we could formulate words.
Right.
But there's always going to be that question in the back of your mind of, did we have to be hurt so much in
Right.
order to become this strong?
Right.
But the word itself is written through people's struggles. I am no better than Job. I am no better than anyone else that the Lord
Right.
took through a trial in order to prune. It's just that my story is just a lot of pruning and a lot of hardships. But again, I resonate with the story of Exodus and in the wilderness, and realizing that something that could have been a short journey
Right.
had to be a long journey. It had to go through a process where people had to find themselves. They had to know who was behind the whole journey. It wasn't the Israelites. It wasn't Moses. It was all God.
Right.
He gave instructions, and they needed to follow it.
Right.
Some did, some did not.
What would you tell your younger self, especially before all the stuff she's about to go through?
It gets better.
It gets better.
It gets better. Yeah. And it's not all bad.
Right.
It's my childhood, by all means, was bad. I wouldn't wish my childhood on anyone. I wouldn't even wish my adulthood to some degree on anyone. I wouldn't wish that journey. But I will tell you, the way that the Lord positioned me to go through it, and the woman I've come out of it, is I will always say thank you, Lord. Always. Thank you for allowing me to have the siblings that I had to go through this. And for all of us to come out with a sane mind.
Right.
Yeah. At times.
What message would you give to someone right now that feels that they're at rock bottom, especially after listening to your story?
That's a hard one, because there's time I have to remind myself, you're not there alone. You're not at the bottom of the alone. It may feel lonely, but you're not alone. And when I started realizing that I didn't need a formal relationship with God, and there's times that I can literally be in the car just, I got this going on, Lord. Okay. I want to hear you, but I really don't want to have that prayer. Like, once I realized that my relationship with Christ was all that I needed at times.
Mm-hmm.
So often we want to rely on other people, and we want to give people our other burdens. We want to have this conversation with people. We want them to feel our pain. We even want them to be our wingman and encourage us to do things that we know that we shouldn't be doing. But it was my relationship with Christ that literally had to get me on track. Even as a parent, parenting is hard. There are some days that I'm like, dear Lord, give me strength. And I don't mean the physical, like you're going to have to give me mental strength to deal with this child, because he is asking for a mom that I don't know how to be right now. Like, I'm supposed to show up in field trips and encouragement and love and discipline him. And how do you go from disciplining to nurturing in 5 minute span? It's hard. It's confusing. And it's almost trying to be a parent from scratch, because I know what type of parents I have, but I never want him to see that type of parent. And I couldn't even protect him from that type of parent. I literally had to have him go through it. And as a mom, it broke my heart.
Right.
Like, I worked so hard for you not to feel like an abandoned child.
Right.
And so.
And I've been lucky enough to meet him, and he is an amazing young man.
Thank you.
And you've done quite well on that one right there. But he's like not a problem.
Yeah.
That's for me on the outside. I'm not dealing with, not putting dishes away or whatever the worst that could happen that he may be going through. So your story is a reminder about strength, and it isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and full of heart. From humble beginnings to single motherhood, from battling brain cancer to rebuilding your life and finally writing a story with your sisters, your journey, which is, again, great book. Sorry.
Thank you.
And I'll put it up again. If people remember just one thing from your story today, what do you hope it is?
I hope you remember my legacy. Even if you don't remember the name, you can't recall the book, that you remember that there was a young girl who went through more trials than necessary, but was ordained by God and made it through, and was able to live to tell the story and not have someone tell it for them. Again, you may forget my name, but just remember that there are these journeys that life is going to take you through, and you'll get through them. And even if you don't get through them, then you're blessed to say, the Lord saw me fit, and this was my purpose. And that was the end of my dash. But you'll always remember the legacy. So, yeah.
That's really good. I love that. Anything else I might have missed out that you wanted to share with?
No, I just hope that, my grandkids reflect back on their lineage and where they came from and say, there was a strong woman. And if my grandmother can do this, then I surely can get into the University of Oklahoma and get a degree.
Boomer.
Or they can, they take what I've been through, even if it's through stories and passed down,
Right.
They know, and they see the end result. They didn't see, hey, my grandma just gave up one day and just took off and we never saw her again. Like, there's a legacy. I want them to be proud of where they come from and want to be able to have that relationship. So, yeah.
I, again, strongly recommend the book. Strongly recommend Trisha's Daughters.
Yeah.
I'll put another link on it, but it's a really great book. It tells a great and amazing story because you're an amazing woman.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. And if you guys get a chance to like, comment, subscribe, I know a lot of people view our sites and our shorts, but not too many subscribe, and that would be appreciated. But again, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Val, on
Thanks
My
for
Dash
having
Story.
me.
And we'll see you next time.